right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Wargames Podcast number 32. Joining me tonight is Mr. Munson and Mr. Smith. Hey, guys. Thanks for hopping in here.
No problem.
And yeah, so you guys will notice that Loster is not here tonight. Unfortunately, the Lobster is having some issues with his laptop. His hard drive has decided to start taking a dump, so Loster had to take his PC in and hopefully get it fixed. If not, potentially get it replaced, or so on. Yeah, so everybody's kind of like, well, good luck, buddy. Yeah, hopefully Loster will be able to get that squared away. And before we get too far into it, Melius with the 8-month resub. Thank you very much, Melius. You'll notice that I rewarded you by making you a platoon leader for a shitty mission. You're welcome. Speaking of that, Smith, were you there Sunday for that operation?
Yes.
Did you fill in?
Yes.
And then obviously Munson, you were there. What did you guys think of the mission itself? Not necessarily the performance of yourself or anybody else in the platoon, but what did you guys think of the mission itself, like the town and how it was kind of built up?
Trying to assault only one town and not pushing on. I know that was hard for some squad leaders, but I'm pretty sure that they weren't able to do that due to the fact that all the repelling forces that were in the town. But I was really expecting, before even contacts showed up, I was expecting us to have a what do you call it, like a good push, like where they're not push for the enemies, like pushing us out, like it was a mission fail, we couldn't even secure the town. That's what I was expecting.
Oh, you were expecting us to not be able to take the town.
Yeah. And plus, I guess I was kind of really hoping for that, like kind of a cool thing. We're assaulting town, and then we end up losing half task force and couldn't assault anymore because of we got reinforcements from the neighboring towns or whatever, and push us all out.
Right.
Which would have been kind of cool, and then we had to get like some air support in to cover us as we leave. But yeah, that was just what I hadn't thought. That's why I was dearly wanting to fill in.
Yeah, I'm glad that didn't happen because I fucking went down enough as it is. So if that would have happened, I probably would have fucking went KIA. But Munson, what did you think of the town itself?
It was good. I mean, as far as difficulty level, I'm kind of liking where it's at. Obviously, every campaign has different levels of difficulty
Right.
throughout its timeline. Uh, Obviously, we're at the last final phase for Thunderstorm, so we're expecting that. Uh, but yeah, I liked it. We we got pincered by the enemy. So
Well, you specifically got pincered by not just the enemy, but by a couple of fucking BMPs.
right, right, and that was rough, especially with the BMP3 with the autocannon and
Yeah,
the
and the big cannon. Yeah.
Right, right, and that's what sucked the worst is because there was an initial mass CAS that was responded to, and as that was being responded to, and everybody was being brought back up, another cannon shell hit. Um, and and at this point 1-6 was out due to technical issues, so we just were relying on the platoon sergeant for direction really, and he got knocked out. Um, so it was hard, it was tough, it was almost a meat grinder scenario uh, at that point, but thankfully we pushed past that. Those targets got taken out and we were able to push on through, I think, at that point with little real resistance.
Yeah. I mean the mission itself wasn't too, it wasn't overly difficult, but yeah, it was difficult. Yeah, I dug the town itself, like I'm pretty sure Garcia did the bulk of the building on that. And he did a good job like building up that town with all those HESCO compounds and
Oh yeah.
shit like that. Like I really enjoyed that. We were right on kind of that fine line uh of like too much shit down for performance sake, but having enough shit down to make that legit look like a town that the enemy was occupying. and that's a fine line that we have to walk all the fucking time. You know, is do we put down objects and make this town not necessarily look lived in, but look like, you know, they're actually trying to defend this motherfucker, or do we not put down objects and, you know, go for performance? So it's a really hard line to walk, but I think they did a really good job with it Sunday, because I didn't have too bad a performance at all, and there was a lot of, you know, like I said, there was a lot of Hescos and shit like that down, which was really cool for, you know, pushing through and clearing that town, and just made for some really interesting situations. So to move on from that, as Munson said, you know, we're coming to the end of Thunderstorm, so the next this weekend will be hopefully the last phase for us, obviously, but nothing is guaranteed with our operations. You know, if we fail, we could go into another phase. But hopefully this weekend will be the last phase for Thunderstorm, and then next week's podcast we'll do kind of a full wrap up of the whole campaign, and hopefully get quite a few guys in here and kind of get their thoughts on the entirety of the campaign. So first thing I want to talk about tonight is what you guys are looking at right now, and what we did last night, which was State of Decay 2. As you see, this ridiculous handling van driving around. So
yep.
The State of Decay actually dropped at midnight on Monday night, and I picked it up a little bit after that because I wanted to wait a little bit to see if they were going to release it on Steam. So I waited about an hour or so to see if it was going to be released on Steam as well, but that was not the case. So it's only available on the Microsoft Store, which sucks because Microsoft Store is dog shit, especially in comparison, you know, to we all are used to being Steam. So anyways, I picked it up Monday night and checked it out for a while. So I played it for like 3 or 4 hours Monday night, just to get a feel for it, kind of collect my thoughts on it so I could, you know, relay that to anybody else that was interested in picking it up Tuesday, and, you know, for the actual release and playing it and stuff. So, like I said, played it for a few hours, dug it. I pretty much right off the bat could understand why co-op is good for this game. If you don't know, this game does allow up to 4-player co-op. And running around on your own, you very quickly realize, like, fuck, I need more people to carry shit. Because you only have a limited amount of spaces to put loot. And so I could understand how getting more people in would help with that. And then, on top of that, you have these plague heart things that are, basically, you just got to destroy these things, and the minute you start doing damage to them, it starts bringing in all these plague zombies that are a lot faster and stronger and can infect you and this and that. And those things are a pain in the dick to do by yourself. You get 3 other buddies in there, not so difficult. They're actually pretty damn easy with 4 people. So, you know, played it by myself for a while, enjoyed it. Definitely wanted to check it out co-op. So talked to Drum, told him my thoughts on it and shit. And then we got Heckman in there. Heckman got it all downloaded, and then we twisted Cherry's arm into grabbing it. So myself, Drum, Heckman, and Cherry played for quite a while Tuesday night. After we figured out how to actually get in the game, because fucking the interface for actually getting in the game and stuff is kind of a pain. You have to go through the Xbox app and shit that's on your PC. And, you know, so then we have to add each other as friends on there because we only ever deal with Steam and this and that. And then once we got that all figured out, we go to try and get into Drum's game, and nobody can get in there. And then we find out it's because he doesn't have his Windows Defender running and this and that. Like, it was some bullshit. Yeah, it's some bullshit by Microsoft to be like, Oh, well, you can't play with your friends unless you're, running all of our legit shit and this and that. It's pretty fucking lame. I can completely understand where Microsoft is coming from, why they're doing it, all of that, but it's still pretty fucking lame. So after like, I don't know, fucking like 30 minutes probably, of dicking around trying to get that done, we're finally able to get into a game with all four of us. Now, once all four of us got into a game, then it was, well, at first it was kind of, we all like kind of spread out and not necessarily we're doing our own thing, but we're kind of looting on our own and, shit like that. And you realize it basically quadruples the amount of loot that is around. So you still go into a building, and each building it'll pop up in the top left corner and tell you how many containers basically in that building you have to loot. So it'll be, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many containers. And you loot one, it'll tell you, 1 out of 3 containers. So you know if you've missed anything. Every person gets that. So instead of playing by yourself and you go into a building and it says, 4 containers, playing with 4 people, all 4 of you go in there, and one person will have 3, one person will have 4, one person will have 5, one person will have 2. So then it's a matter of like cherry picking all this loot. So it does help, having 4 people, because obviously, like I said, you can carry more. But on top of that, you flat out get more loot from doing that. Now, the thing that's interesting with that is when you do a co-op game, if you join someone else's game, nothing as far as your game progresses. None of the missions that you do have any effect on your game. Nothing that you do progresses, with exception of any of the loot that you pick up in your backpack. You can put that in your personal stash, and that'll transfer over to your community. Or you can drop it for your buddy to pick up, and he can put it into his stash. Whatever. The only thing that you can contribute to your host's game is these big-ass rucksacks. These rucksacks contain food, ammunition, building materials, fuel, so on. And you can put it into your host's supply area. And that supplies their entire community. It's not going into their personal stash. And those rucksacks are important. That's what you use for all of your building, all of your base modifications, everything like that uses those rucksacks. So that's the only thing that you can contribute, but that's pretty much the most important thing you can contribute. But in actuality, you can contribute everything, because if you say, like there was a lot of times last night, I was using 22 pistol and a 22 rifle on my 2 characters. Like at one point, Drum was using 9mm. So all the 9mm ammo that I had collected throughout the night, I just dropped on the ground for him, and he was able to pick up. So you can, share your ammo and this and that. The, I guess, kind of downside so far that I've found to the game are, I guess, my biggest annoyance is the character system, and the fact that after time your character will get fatigued. And once you're fatigued, any strenuous activity you do, whether it be sprinting or, melee combat with zombies, so on, it will lower your stamina, your maximum stamina. And it keeps getting lower if you keep doing strenuous activities. And you have to switch characters. Now, that's kind of annoying when I'm, like I'm working with this one character, purposefully using my weapon to engage zombies rather than melee and this and that to build up their weapon skills and stuff. And then they get fatigued and I have to switch over to a different character. It's kind of annoying for me. I don't really care for that. I would have much preferred to just be able to have one individual character. And then if that character gets killed, then you have to switch to one of the other characters in your community. But I would have much preferred to just have one character that you play as. Not even necessarily have to have a character creation. That's fine. I can play as one of the pre-built characters, but just let me stick with that character. Don't force me to change who I'm playing as unless that person dies. There were some very interesting bugs throughout the game. I can say that time this game spent in beta apparently wasn't very well spent, because I mean the bugs we came across were pretty common. You know, we only played it for, like it said, 6-7 hours total, and we experienced the same bugs multiple times. So I definitely expect, or I hope, that this game is going to be seeing a fairly large patch sometime relatively soon to fix some of these bugs. Just some of them were very simple things, like doors appearing open for us and they were actually closed for other people, or someone not being able to open a door until someone else walked over there and closed it, and then they were able to open it again even though it was open for us. You know, not being able to see each other's backpacks and their weapons that they had, so on. And the worst problem, hands down so far, is the desync that you experience while in vehicles. Predominantly when you're in vehicles. We didn't really experience it on foot at all. But if you're driving around in vehicles, the desync can be horrid. You know, like, we're talking beyond like ArmA 2 style desync, where all of a sudden your vehicle will warp back 100 meters. And at one point it did that, and it desynced for me. All of a sudden our vehicle is sitting still and we've got like 15 zombies around us, some of them piled onto the vehicle and shit. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck? And the other guys are like starting to try and fight these zombies and shit. And then I think Drum hopped in the van and started trying to run them over. And the van would just be sitting still. And then 2 seconds later, it would teleport fucking 20 feet out in front of where he was. And it just, the desync was bad and like damn near got us killed. That was the worst of it we had seen throughout the game. We didn't experience it quite that bad any other time. But that one to me was like, oh, holy shit, like this is fucking bad. Like, these guys need to get a patch done and get this desync taken care of, because like, because in this game, if one of your characters dies, they're gone for good. You never get to play as that character again. So, you know, if I would have lost one of my characters due to some bullshit desync, I'd have been pretty well fucking pissed. So hopefully that's something that gets taken care of very quickly. That being said, though, even with that bug and the other, you know, minor bugs that we came across, I still enjoyed the game. We still played it for, like I said, 6 or 7 hours. And we're gonna fucking play it some more tonight because it is fun. And, you know, something that Heckman said last week during the podcast in chat, he was talking about Anthem, that excuse me, that big new BioWare game, and he said that game only has to be half as good as what it should be because it has co-op. And he's right. Like, this game, by all rights, had I experienced these kind of bugs playing on my own, I probably wouldn't continue to play it. But because I can play it with 3 of my buddies, that makes up for it. That makes the game fun again. Like that issue that you guys just seen in the video with the flashlight where it's flashing, I realized that's not the flashlight flashing. That's your fucking arms moving in front of the flashlight causing shadows. But why that's retarded to me is, how in the fuck are your arms moving in front of the flashlight while you're jogging when your arms are moving at like stomach level and the flashlight is up on your fucking shoulder? Like, that's something very simple that somehow the game designers, you know, said, hey, yeah, we should make your arms make shadows in the flashlight. That'll be really cool. And then didn't realize that at no point in time while you're running do your arms actually cross the beam of light way the fuck up on your shoulder. Like, that's just a stupid mistake to make. So, anyways, that to me, the game is well worth it, provided you have a crew of guys that you'll be able to play with. I mean, to top it all off, the game only costs $30, so it's basically half of what we're used to spending on new games. But yeah, even if you have one other person that's willing to play it with you, I think it's well worth that $30 to pick up and play with your buddies. Like I said, we played it for 6-7 hours last night. We're gonna play it again tonight. I have no idea how far we actually got into it because the story's actually kind of weak. There's not like as far as I can tell, there's not like a legit, I guess, main campaign. It's kind of, I don't know. It's just not. It's not very well structured as far as whatever the main storyline is. And the voice acting could definitely do some work. There's some very awkward pauses in between some of the dialogue and stuff. But whatever. I don't really. In a co-op game like this, I don't really give a shit. Like, I don't even really care about the storyline. I'm just there to play with my buddies and survive and build our base, or I guess technically build drum space, but it's ours. But yeah, that's all I really give a shit about, is to hang out with my buddies and play and survive and take care of each other and help out and stuff like that. So I highly recommend it if, like I said, you have the people to play with. If you're just playing solo, I don't really recommend it. But now that I've been talking for like 20 minutes straight, you guys, what are your guys' thoughts on it? Is this something that you think you would be interested in? Is it something you're probably gonna pick up, or what?
Uh, well, I've looked into it a little bit. To be honest, I'm kind of over the whole zombie survival, base building thing. I did look into it, but it's like, as you said, it just seems pretty buggy to me. And the co-op's a nice feature for that, uh, but that's pretty buggy as well. So I don't know. I mean, if you really enjoy that genre, sure, but I think there might be better genres out there, or better uh, games in that genre that
Right.
fit that need better, I think.
Um. Well, I don't know about better games in the genre. Um. And what do you think would be a better game in that genre? And as far
So,
as like the zombie survival.
so, so there's a couple things. So zombies with themselves are kind of going out a little
Yeah.
bit of
Which
style.
which I will say is a good thing. Like it
Right,
is getting pretty old.
right. So I'm definitely one of those people that are zombie fatigued. Um, Call of Duty is dropping zombies for their newest installment in favor of a battle royale, which I'm also kind of fatigued with.
Hmm.
Um, so it's just kind of fallen out of favor. Um, and I think it needs a break. And you have, I don't know, just a bunch of different games. Not, obviously, I play a ton of Escape from Tarkov. It's not zombie, but it's super hardcore milsim features and that kind of thing, um, that I enjoy. Um, and for like other games in the genre, like DayZ has got a big update, but again, that's fallen
That's
out of
I
favor.
did. Well, I don't know, because I just seen something the other day about I guess Daisy already has a new engine live. I
I
don't
don't know.
I don't know, because there was that video that made the rounds of the quote unquote new Daisy engine with the flowing water and this and that. And remember, we were all fucking making fun of it because it's like, well, how about you just
Yeah.
actually give us some fucking zombies instead of flowing water? Um, but I seen a video the other day that they have a new engine. I don't know if it's the one we seen the video of or not. Uh, but I contemplated checking it out just to see this new engine. But the thing is, is this new engine, like, does it add anything aside from visuals? Because, I mean, I can play fucking ArmA 3. I don't really,
Right.
I obviously don't give a shit that much about the visuals. Like, I want actual zombie hordes and non-douchebags that are actually there to try and, survive. But, you know, do they have base building and shit like that in there yet? Like the mod has had for fucking damn near 10 years now.
Oh
It's,
yeah.
um, so yeah.
And funny that you mentioned that. I do think back on the mod because that's oddly enough where I first got into ArmA in general was kind of when
Mhm.
the very
Oh, that's where a
first
lot of people did.
mod. Uh, and from there is when I branched into Milsim. But anyway, that is where kind of people loved it and kind of
Hmm.
where uh, it really made a name for itself. And the sad fact is, when they came out with the game, everyone knows this now pretty much. But when they came out with Daisy Standalone, it was a shell of what it once was,
Right.
and that first killed it. And to this day, they still have not brought back features or that same feeling of what it used to be.
Right.
Um, and them adding new water and other junk and fluff, that's fine,
It's
but
just, it's not what's
it's
needed
not the
for the
core.
game, though.
Right,
Um,
because people don't care about that stuff necessarily if the core of the game is broken.
right. And very quickly, Herdman, thank you, thank you a ton for that, gifted sub to Mr. Jal, who is a longtime, follower here. Appreciate that, Hardman. Um, and actually, in terms of, like Hardman said, they're speaking about the zombies, that they're much, much harder than they ever used to be. I don't think the zombies ever needed to be harder. I don't.
Right.
I don't think the difficulty level of the zombies was ever a problem. I mean, between the fucking uh, the desync and the lag and shit, the zombies were already difficult enough. There just wasn't enough of them. Like, we were expecting, or at least I was expecting shit like, oh, what's that new Sony exclusive that's getting ready to come out with the biker? Remember when that fucking video was first released? And it shows that horde of like hundreds of zombies chasing him. Like that video made the rounds everywhere. But that's like what everybody expected, or at least that's what, like I said, what I expected, what I wanted, was to see actual hordes of zombies. And we definitely did not get that.
Right.
But anyways, back to the original point. So you think that Daisy would be a better entry into the zombie survival than what State of Decay 2 is?
Not necessarily. See, that's the thing for me, though. I mean, I can compare, a pile of crap to a pile of crap, sure, uh, but I just don't. I think the boat has sailed on it, to be honest. And with the amount of half baked games that we're seeing, um, for me. I've signed off on the whole thing until
Hmm.
something changes. Um, Now, obviously, I've looked into State of Decay. It looks, like I said, kind of nice. It has some cool features.
It
The
definitely needs
zombies are
work, though.
right. Absolutely, the zombies are pretty cool. And if you had some sort of mixture of the two, maybe. But I don't know. I mean, for me, there's just not really a good zombie game out there right now. And nor do I really care to have
Right.
one.
And I can completely understand that thought. Like, uh, somebody had said earlier in chat that Flash said that zombies just got oversaturated, and it did, absolutely. But Drum made a really good point last night. We were in the middle of playing, and he said, "This is what the Division should have been." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was speaking to like the looting aspect of it and having to go out. Like, we have to decide, like, okay, are we going to go out and do this mission, or are we going to go out on a scavenging run? If we're going to go out on a scavenging run, all right, let's take 3 or 4 vehicles with us so we can load all the shit in the back of the trucks and have extra room and for inventory and stuff like that. And that's actually a really good point. I mean, and not to say that this would have like saved the Division or anything like that. We all know it was lacking content, but the Division did somewhat have that looting aspect, but it was nowhere near as intricate as what State of Decay 2 has. And I think he was right. I think State of Decay 2 would have been pretty badass if it was more along the lines of this and you had a lot more interesting loot, and loot was absolutely vital. Like, you had to get food and munitions and shit like that for your looting. I think that would have made the game that much more interesting to have this style of setup, especially in that setting of post-apocalyptic New York and shit. Like, that would have made that game a whole different level. And I probably would have enjoyed it even more than I already did, which I've talked about multiple times. So, I mean, as far as State of Decay 2, the way I'm looking at it, honestly, is it's not a full release. This, to me, is a game that's still in beta. Hopefully, the developers are kind of looking at it the same way as well. They're going to continue working on it, I hope. The reason I'm kind of okay with that and looking at it as still being in beta, and again, hoping that they're going to continue to work on it, is that $30 price tag. It's, so I guess, supposed to be a full game. I mean, the maps are pretty fucking massive, and there is a lot of shit that you need to go loot and search and this and that. Like I said, the story is quite lacking. I don't know what the actual end game state is, or if there really is one. I assume there is, based upon the comments of the lead dev that we talked about last week. But for $30, a game that has already given me 7 hours of gameplay and is going to give me some more, yeah, I can swallow that pill. I can deal with that. So that $30 for the game makes it quite a bit more attractive than $60. Like, if this costs $60, and you guys are seeing an example of how great the fucking vehicles handle, which is horribly. If this costs $60, I would probably be a lot more harsh on it. Because it'd be like, hey, I'm dropping $60 on this game. It's a full-fledged release. Like, why in the fuck am I dealing with these bugs and these problems and this and that? But like I said, at $30, I find myself being a lot more lenient on it. But do you guys think that would change your opinion on a game at all? Having,
Yes.
a lower price tag?
Well, even with a higher price tag or a lower price tag, if it's a high price tag, I'm expecting something where I'm very interested in be using it forever, like ArmA 3. It was like $50 at the time when I bought it, and or around the $50, and I'm still playing it right now. Same thing with Siege, I'm still playing it. But games like Sea of Thieves that I bought for $59.99 and been playing beta, the game just never interested me. And I think they should be, whenever something that expensive is like that, they should add more activities to the game. And if the game is for money, I will definitely buy it because it's much cheaper for me to buy and play. And especially when you have a lot of content things to do. Sometimes I'll just say, oh, there would be some bugs in the game or whatever. As long as the game's enjoyable to play and I'm able to play this with my friends, then why not just keep playing it and not complain about the bugs?
Right, and yeah, I mean, ArmA is obviously a very good example of that, since we all play it and have thousands of hours into it. But I mean, that actually brings me on to one of the other things that I wanted to talk about tonight, which is kind of this big debate that's been going on lately. There's a website called Green Man Gaming that has recently began using their own data collected from their own community and stuff to give a dollar per hour metric on games. So you can go to greenmangaming.com and you can look up games, and they have reviews and stuff like that as well. Green Man Gaming sells codes to games, kind of along the lines of G2A, but not as shady as G2A, not nearly as shady as G2A.
Agreed.
But they have their reviews and stuff like that, and now they have this new metric of dollar per hour. And basically, based upon the information that they've gathered from their community and their own people, and then their site's prices for the game, they can tell you how many dollars you're spending per hour of gameplay in that game. So if you're paying $1 per hour or whatever. And there's been a big debate that's as a result of that, that some people are hating that metric. Like, it's not about the amount of money that you're paying per hour of gameplay. It's about how enjoyable those hours are and this and that, which I agree with. I mean, it is about game enjoyment, but it's also about getting some fucking bang for your buck. But there's people saying that metric shouldn't even exist. Like, we shouldn't judge games at all based upon their dollar per hour value and this and that. And I look at that and it's like, what kind of logical fucking person thinks like that? Like, why would you not want yet another metric available for you to base an educated opinion on? Like, that's fucking retarded.
I actually have an opinion on this too, because for me anyway, games are entertainment, but they're also an investment for me.
Absolutely.
So generally, and that's another great reason why I didn't buy State of Decay 2, because I didn't want to invest in that thing. I just don't want it that much.
Right.
And that's fine, whatever. But anyway, the games I do, such as ArmA, Grand Theft Auto, Skyrim. I mean, there's tons of other games out there, but you can sink thousands and thousands of hours in these titles.
It's shit that you're gonna get your money out of.
Right. And so it's a good metric. I like it. But really, people are complaining because they assume people don't know what they're buying, or they don't know what they're getting into, which is possibly true. But you should leave that up to the consumer. It just gives another metric that people can look at, and it's up to the consumer to make the educated decision of if that product is for them or not. So who cares about the damn metric?
I know,
It doesn't
that's
matter.
that's the thing to me. Is it's like it's yet another piece of information you can take into account to decide whether or not you're going to buy that game. Like, if someone is purely basing their purchase off of dollar per hour value, okay, then
not good.
Yeah, then you're talking about someone being stupid for the fucking sake of being stupid. Like, if they make their decision based purely upon that and not upon user reviews and Metacritic and stuff like that, then their own goddamn fault. Like, why the fuck are you getting all up in arms about it? Like, it's just yet another example of fucking baby back bitches complaining for the sake of complaining. Like, it's so goddamn stupid. Like, they're all up in arms with Green Man Gaming and saying, "Oh, you guys are sellouts and you shouldn't be doing." And how they're fucking sellouts, I have no fucking idea, because it's not like they're getting paid by the goddamn games companies to say, "Hey, you get this many hours per dollar" or whatever. But yeah, it's just like fucking whiny little cunts whining just for the sake of doing it.
And one of the arguments I've seen, which at first glance you could be like, all right, I could guess you could justify this, is simply that they don't want game devs to start to pack the game full of empty content.
Exactly.
To boost that rating.
That is, the thing that I've written down here is my one concern is you don't want AAA developers to get fixated on that and say, oh, well, we need to pump up the hours of content. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's always a good thing to have more content in there, but it does become a bad thing when they're doing it just for the sake of getting that metric up, and it's pointless content. So when you think about things like, climbing the fucking towers in Assassin's Creed, that's just pointless bullshit to put in there to give more shit to do. Same thing with Mad Max. Like, there was a lot of shit in Mad Max like that. And the video I was watching on this subject, they brought that up specifically, the Mad Max, and they made a really good point, and that was, Mad Max is not a great game. It's a good game that happens to be pretty damn long, and a lot of that length is out of repetitive. Okay, go clear this place. Go clear this place. Go clear this place. It's the exact same thing every time. Maybe a little bit different enemies, or you have to circumvent this trap at this place, but they don't have that trap at this other place. But it's basically the same exact fucking content repeated 20 times in one game. And that's the kind of thing that I can see as a justifiable concern in this situation with this, type of metric becoming popular. That
Right.
I can see as a concern, but not just, oh, well, they shouldn't do it because we shouldn't value games like that. Like, yes, we should value fucking games. Like, I don't want to pay $60 for a game that lasts fucking 4 hours for me, which is exactly what Call of Duty is, which is why, I wouldn't get into the newer Call of Duties because for me, I only give a shit about the single player experience. Well, the single player experience lasts fucking 4 hours, maybe. So, what the fuck is the point of buying the game for me? There isn't one.
Yeah. And what, the new one doesn't even have it anymore,
Yeah.
apparently, I
Yeah,
guess,
the new
from what
one.
I've been reading.
Yeah, they announced, what was it, a week or 2 weeks after I talked about it on the podcast, they finally came out and announced, that the new Call of Duty will not have any type of campaign. It will be multiplayer only and a battle royale mode.
They just shot themselves in the foot. I mean,
I don't think they did.
it's
still going to be the biggest game of the year. Still.
True, but and maybe that's just I forget all the different companies at this point that they have, but maybe it's just that one's or not company, but publisher or whatever. You know how they have 2 or 3 different ones
Mm-hmm.
for each year. But anyway, maybe it's just that one's Treyarch's or whatever's uh thing. Maybe the other ones will still have one, and that'll be their new gimmick, so to speak. Is
We'll see.
the new mode?
Well, I mean, also on kind of that same subject of, I guess, kind of the popcorn shooters, as I call them, Battlefield 5 was announced, I think, last week or the week before.
Boy.
And then they finally showed some footage of it today.
Mm-hmm.
They had a big reveal stream and stuff. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch it because I was taking an old man nap. So, fuck them. But anyways, I did watch the, I guess, reveal trailer afterwards. And obviously, the reveal trailer is just a big scripted sequence. Like, it's no actual gameplay or anything like that. And that was kind of upsetting. But at the same time, I was okay with it because it's showing... it was basically just showing the utter chaos. It's completely ridiculous shit that's going on. There's one point where a fucking potato masher gets thrown at these guys, and dude picks it up and throws it in the air, and the guy runs, slides, and shoots it with a fucking MG32 that he's carrying, and it blows up and takes down a plane that's coming in on like a strafing run from 30 feet off the ground, which, like I said, it's completely ridiculous. But it's just showing, the chaos that Battlefield is kind of known for with, their huge battles and stuff like that. So I didn't necessarily mind it all too much. Of course, they had to get their fucking diversity in there. They had a black dude running around, and they had a fucking chick with a amputated claw arm and this and that. And that's more the fucked up thing is that's like one of the more annoying things. And this isn't to be like the sexist, racist asshole. It's just like, dude, come on. Like, it's fucking World War II. I understand, like, you guys want to get your, your fucking special snowflakes card out there and not get fucking accused of anything. So you got to have some diversity. But, like, there was
Black
one...
Nazis, for
right.
God's sake?
Like, there was one division of black infantry in the entirety of the U.S. Army during World War II. And we're talking about 1 million U.S. troops, and there was one division that were black guys. Females weren't allowed in a combat role. Flat out. Was not allowed. You were nurses and clerks and shit like that. Like, it's kind of annoying. But I will say it's cool that Battlefield is going back to World War II. Now, the reason I say that is historically, Battlefield is a slight bit more hardcore than Call of Duty. Very slightly. But the big thing that Battlefield has going for it is the vehicles. And we all know that, World War II obviously had a great deal of vehicles and some of the most memorable vehicles. And we've seen, quite a few of those in the reveal trailer. So that's a big thing that Battlefield has over Call of Duty. But you already know that fucking vast majority of people are going to be, oh, here we go, Battlefield's copying Call of Duty and this and that. And like, we talked about this on last week's podcast. Like, dude, those games are in fucking development long before anything is announced. Like, I don't know any way that DICE would, would have known that Call of Duty was doing World War II, aside from speculation, and here's one of the big desync spots I was talking about. There you go. You guys seen that. But, Battlefield 5 went into development as soon as Battlefield 1 was probably announced, possibly even before it was announced. They had 2 teams working at one time. So is Battlefield like copying Call of Duty to go back to World War II? Oh, they're just reading the fucking market and realizing that everybody's tired of future warfare. People are tired of fucking the World War One situation now because fucking Battlefield has done that, so they don't want another World War One game. Where can we go? Well, it's either Vietnam or World War Two. They're not going to do Vietnam because they're not ready for another bad company yet. So they're going to go back to World War Two. Fine, they're going back to their roots. Like I don't know. I don't see that as them copying them or anything like that, or it even being a problem. In fact, I'm actually kind of happy about that. Like Battlefield is one of those games that I will play for the campaign. Like I actually, I'll say Battlefield 1, I didn't play the campaign, just because I severely dislike the use of weapons in Battlefield 1. Like I hate the amount of automatic weapons that are in that game. I understand why they did it. They have to, basically increase the pace to keep people engaged and, have fun with it. But it just pisses me off to no end. The amount of machine guns and shit like that are in Battlefield 1. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. Yeah. They just released the Thompson in Battlefield 1. It's like, dude, the Thompson was released after World War I was done. Like, over with. The armistice had been signed. And then the Thompson was released. Yes, it was being developed during World War I and was going to be used in World War I. But it was never fucking released to the US military until after the armistice had already been signed. Like, that kind of shit is annoying to me. It's the same with Call of Duty World War II, with guys running around with, like, basically fucking red dots and, like, reflex optics on their fucking STG-44 and shit. Dude, this is just fucking ridiculous. Like, this shit didn't happen. Like, yeah, it may have been a fucking prototype, but even the STG-44 itself wasn't released until late in the war, and only a few thousand troops even got their hands on them. Like, stop, motherfuckers. But yeah, anyway, Battlefield 5, like, I'll probably end up picking it up to check out the campaign, because I did enjoy the campaign and Battlefield 4. There were parts of it that annoyed me, but it was still a fun campaign to play through, and I've played through it multiple times. So I'll probably end up picking up Battlefield 5 just to check out the campaign, and see, if yet again they do World War II better than Call of Duty, because they've done it in the past. So if they do it better now. But what about you guys? Like, did you guys watch that reveal trailer? What did you think of it?
I did. I actually have issue with the direction Battlefield's going. I've played every title ever, and obviously, like you said, they're going back to their roots. But the issue is not with the direction they're going, uh, like time wise. The issue is the casualification, or
Mhm.
or whatever you want to call that, of their games. And I understand they're trying to compete with Call of Duty, so they got to make it more open and more available. But it's just turning what once was a more hardcore team-based shooter into more of an arena deathmatch with vehicles, and I just don't like it. When they showed Battlefield 1 off and showed the UI for the first time and showed the gameplay, I was just like, really? It's not really what I wanted. Um,
I don't
I,
know though, because when you look at, because even though I don't play the games, I still like I'll watch a lot of like level caps videos and Jack's videos and stuff, especially when like new patches come out and they talk about the weapons and stuff. And I agree completely. On the surface, it does look like a Call of Duty basically clone as far as gameplay and mechanics and stuff, and it is just run and gun. Um, Very much so. And even subsurface, it is just run and gun, when you compare it to something like ArmA. Uh, but when those guys get into like the metrics of the weapons and the damage per minute, the velocity of the rounds, this and that, like I've never seen somebody talk about Call of Duty that way. About, the range of the weapons and how much damage they're doing per shot and this and that. I've never seen anyone go that in depth with a Call of Duty game. Even like hardcore pro guys, like back in the day when like nade shot was huge and shit with Call of Duty and stuff, like those guys never went into that kind of detail as to, what weapons to use and why to use them and what the ranges were and damage per minute and rate of fire and how many rounds to kill and this and that. Like they never got that kind of detail into them. So yeah, I do agree that the gameplay compared to the older ones has gotten much more casual. But I think below the surface that like all of that kind of more hardcore stuff is still there, provided you know to look for it. But then again, I could be completely wrong. But you also have like the vehicles and stuff like that, which, like I said, Call of Duty doesn't really do. But when it comes to that genre specifically, World War II, you know, obviously there's already been some amazing World War II games that have been made, and some of them being, Call of Duty, the old school Call of Duties, Battlefield, Medal of Honor, stuff like that. But there was also basically World War II squad game that's
Oh yeah.
that's coming out, which is Postscriptum. Which when it comes to kind of hardcore shooters, that's gonna blow Battlefield and Call of Duty out of the water as far as like
Right.
detail and shit like that. Like I said, it's squad,
Mhm.
but it's World War II instead of
That's what I
modern
want
day.
to sink my teeth into.
Yeah,
That's
that
I
looks
basically
fun.
turned into a squad slash now when that game comes out, Postscriptum fan. That's gonna be where I'm at.
Yeah. Um, I'm a huge fan of the fact that they're focusing on a very specific conflict within World War II, and they're focusing on the specific units that were involved in that, right down to their uniforms. I mean, their uniforms are laser scanned and shit. The types of vehicles that were there, the weapons that were used at that time. I mean, it's a crazy amount of detail that these guys are going into for this game, and they're going to continue to add to the game and uh, go into potentially other theaters, which I think is kind of a saving grace for these guys. They're not trying to do the entirety of World War II. They're not trying to cover every theater. They're covering one very specific battle. So I think that's going to help them out a lot. But it is very hardcore when you compare it to like Battlefield or Call of Duty. Like I said multiple times now, it's squad in World War II. The only problem I've seen with it so far is that it appears like everybody has a radio potentially, which
Yeah, I also disagree with that. I
yeah,
can
I'm
see
not
that.
really a fan of that considering how serious they're going. Like you should have directional chat only. And if you're a squad leader or something, you get a radio and you can talk to the other squad leaders in the game with you. But otherwise, you have like direct chat only. And enemies can hear direct chat. So hopefully they kind of changed the way that works a little bit. We'll see. But that is a game that I'm interested in for sure. I've watched decent amount of gameplay of it now, and it looks pretty goddamn fun. Especially if you can get a crew of guys in there to be able to put in some work. So yeah, I guess long story short, Battlefield 5 was announced, and I'll end up picking it up for the campaign. Other than that, I don't give a shit, and I do most of the people I know.
Regional focus on Battlefield or Call of Duty. For some reason, I just don't like them. I've never seen any. Actually, I've seen gameplay of Battlefield. I've never seen any gameplay of Call of Duty. I just rather watch the videos, but I don't really
But
even like feel like playing Battlefield or Call of Duty.
Well, that's the
Even if
thing
someone got it
with
for
like with Call of Duty dropping the fucking single player campaign. Me and Heckman were talking about this the other night. Like, think about Call of Duty and think about the campaign specifically. Everybody remembers, anybody that played it remembers the Modern Warfare campaign. Everybody remembers that fucking mission of riding in the back of the Chinook when the nuke goes off and the Chinook going down and you crawling out of the back of that fucking helicopter and then your character dying. Because it was the first Call of Duty campaign where your character dies and you have no control over it. Everybody that played that fucking campaign remembers that. Same with the sniper mission, all gillied up.
Oh, yep.
Everybody remembers that fucking mission. You bring up Call of Duty Modern Warfare, they talk about those two specific situations. Going into fucking Chernobyl and getting blown up in the helicopter. That, that's gone now. There is no more campaign. What was that, Smith?
So the whole campaign was built up for you to die, or is like you picked either the three options?
Well, no, you play multiple different characters throughout the game. Like you hop around. That's been a big thing with Call of Duty for a long time. But it was still the first time one of your characters ever dies. Like flat out dies. You never get to go back and play that character. So that was fucking huge back then. But that's one of the most memorable single player campaigns I've ever played was Modern Warfare because of those situations like that. One of the other ones, I forget if it's Modern Warfare 1, 2, or 3, but the when you go in the SVD and you're in your dive gear and you go in onto that oil rig and you climb up it from below, you come in underwater and shit. That was a fucking epic mission. And you've got the little torpedo things that you hold on to fucking drag you through the water quicker. That was a badass mission, man. And no Russian. A lot of people remember the whole no Russian thing. But yeah, their campaigns have obviously just continued to go downhill and downhill and downhill because their multiplayer has become that much more. But with how big that company is, I don't understand why they can't do both. Like, why is it not possible to do? Yeah, it's going to cost more money, but you can't tell me they're not making good enough money. Like, it's hundreds of millions of fucking dollars a year. I think they're all right. They can handle, continuing a campaign. And you cannot tell me if they were to come out with a new Call of Duty, this Black Ops 4, if they would have, named it something completely different, like went with a whole new Call of Duty, or even if they went with and called it, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4 and went to like Afghanistan or something, and just made, an absolute badass campaign. Still have the Battle Royale mode, but, take a fucking year off. And instead of releasing a game every fiscal year, fucking take a year off, work on doing a badass campaign, and then release it. And you can't tell me that these guys couldn't release a Call of Duty game with their normal multiplayer, with a Battle Royale mode, and just a fucking amazing campaign that just blows everybody out of the water. You can't tell me that would bring some Call of Duty players back, and they wouldn't get a lot of praise for it. Because it's been so long since they did a good campaign. If they were to bring it back and be, hey, look what we did, it would be kind of like the revival kind of that Far Cry 5 has given Ubisoft. And, a lot of people have not been happy with Ubisoft, but very specifically with Far Cry. Far Cry 4 wasn't that great. Far Cry Primal was a fucking joke. So, Far Cry 5 hits, and it's actually a good game because they took their time to make the shit, and everybody's cheering for fucking Ubisoft again. Like, hey, you guys fucking knocked it out of the park. Great job. Call of Duty could fucking do that, man. I do understand why they don't. It's because their fucking board members want more money, but it's like, fuck, dude, if you would just realize that in the long run, you're gonna make more fucking money by, you know, slowing down and taking your time and getting some fans behind you than just the perpetual fucking no, fuck them, they're Call of Duty. Like, you know, Ubisoft is the best-selling uh, Ubisoft game on launch in history. Far Cry 5 is. So Far Cry 5 released and sold better than any other Ubisoft title in history because they took their time. Like, I think they need to fucking take a year or two off. Same thing with that Assassin's Creed did. Like, Assassin's Creed Origin released to great critical and fan acclaim because they took some fucking time off and worked on their shit. Call of Duty needs to do the same fucking thing. And now I'm tired of talking about it. So, fuck them. So the other gaming news I want to get into here is Metro Exodus has been delayed until 2019 by THQ. And I wanted to talk about this for a quick minute because the last two Metro games, pretty fucking cool. I was a fan of them. I tried doing the Redux, but for some reason they just ran like dog shit on my machine, which was weird. It shouldn't have been possible. But anyways, I personally am perfectly fine with them delaying the game until 2019. Like, that's just telling me they don't think the game's ready yet, and they're not gonna fucking release it. So despite potential backlash, they're like, yeah, we're gonna delay it until next year. I'm perfectly cool with that. In fact, I'm happy about that. But what about you guys? One, are you guys a fan of the Metro series? Two, what do you think about games in general getting delayed? Do you see it as, oh fuck, here we go, you know, another delay, you know, so on and so forth, or do you see it like I do as kind of a good thing that they're delaying a game and working on it longer?
For me, I mean, I am a fan of the series. I've played the first one, and I've kind of skipped the rest just because I've been waiting for something different enough to warrant it. Um, and this new one does look phenomenal. I watched the
Hmm.
trailer and the footage and everything they've released so far, and it looks good.
Oh yeah, it's
But
very pretty.
yeah, the environment alone is outstanding. The only issue is in even the gameplay footage, I saw some kind of janky stuff and some goofy stuff, and I mean it looked good, but just some of the stuff they're showing off wasn't polished. I think perfectly.
Well, yeah, that's to
Was
be
like
expected with how early the
right,
footage is.
right. So I'm gonna keep watching it. I'm in the same boat as you. Let's wait and see. Let's polish it some more, and let's get a good game out of it rather than a mediocre one.
Hmm.
My opinion, I don't like games like these. Um, I'm very like I said, I am very picky. My brother's very picky, and there's certain things I don't like these type of games in the genre. But however, though, I own certain opinion based off of actual developers or at least the whole game line being delayed to be released is something I'm not a fan of, especially when they hype it up and then
Right.
they start putting out videos saying this is how it's gonna look like, and you're like, "Well, I cannot wait for this to come out. I just cannot wait." And then all of a sudden, doesn't get released at that certain time. Like Ghost Recon Wildlands, I was waiting for that to get released, and if they would have held that back, I'm like, "Oh my god, I just literally saved. Yeah, I literally did not spend this $50, and I could have spent on something else." And now they decided
Oh,
to
right, right.
hold and release it out, especially when I'm graduating this year. So those are one of the things I just don't like when these type of genres of the games, and I don't like it when people hold stuff back, especially when you give out a release date and planned it accordingly to yourselves and how you're gonna get it released on that day.
Right. Yeah, I can understand that
Unless you
thought
give a reason.
process. Uh, you know, like you said, like you know, if you're, you know, being like in your case, being a college student and stuff, like that 50, $60 could be, you know, vital somewhere else. And some people might say, well, don't spend, you know, don't be trying to spend your fucking money on a video game if you need to eat dinner. Like, suck a dick. That's just retarded. But like you said, you could spend that money somewhere else. And yeah, I can understand that thought process. It's a little bit different for me. Like when you have expendable income, you know, somewhat, it's a little bit different. And especially now when it's kind of your job to play these games, it's like well, okay, cool. That's $60 I didn't have to spend on top of the, other $60 I got to spend this week because a different game is releasing. But like I said, personally, the majority of the time, obviously this is not the case every single time, but the majority of the time, I am happy to see that a game is getting delayed because it means that someone somewhere within that fucking circle has said, no, this game is not good enough. We cannot release it. That is a good thing because the thing you also have to understand when it comes to game development is vast majority of, release dates, all the hype, this and that, that's not controlled at all by the people that are actually making the game. People that are making the game don't give a release. They're given a release date. They say, we need this done by this day. And their only response they can give is, okay.
Okay.
And it's, hey, we need footage of what you're working on because we're putting together a commercial. You're the boss. Here you go. This is what we got so far. So that's purely on like the studio heads and marketing and boards and all of that stupid shit. But when it comes down to it, the decision of whether or not to delay a game, that's more so on the people that are actually building it. Because they're the ones that say, hey, this system's not done yet. We can't release this game. Yeah, we're behind schedule. It's taken longer than, what you guys want. But sorry, the game's not done. We can't release it. It's not playable. We have to delay it. So then, those people have no choice but to say, okay, yeah, have the marketing people draw something up and tell everyone that we're delaying the game for another year. We don't have a choice. That's how long the devs are saying it's going to take to get the system working. We don't have a choice. But like I said, I'm personally a fan of when games get delayed because that's coming from the people that are actually building the game, not the people that are fucking hyping it up. So I like that. So it was like when like Anthem, got delayed. That's a game that I'm really looking forward to because yet again, it's 4-player co-op. I get to play with my buddies, this and that. But they delayed it. I think very much so because they learned a lesson from Andromeda and got fucking ripped apart with Mass Effect Andromeda, and they don't want to make that same mistake again because when they were working on Andromeda, they told them, hey, we need to delay this game. Like, we have more stuff that needs to be worked on. And they didn't listen to them and said, no, we're pushing the game out. They pushed the game out, and people instantly fucking ripped it apart. And then they had to do patch after patch after patch to fix the fucking game and make it genuinely playable. So now they've kind of learned their lesson and said, oh shit, maybe we should actually listen to these guys when they say that the game that they're building, that they've spent the last fucking 3-4 years of their life on, isn't ready yet. So yeah, with Metro getting delayed, I'm all for that. I can handle waiting another year. Yeah, I mean, it still sucks. I want to play the fucking game, but I can handle waiting another year for a higher quality game. I'm perfectly okay with that. Now with the announcement that Metro would be delayed, is that they also announced Darksiders 3, which I don't really personally care about. I've never been a Darksiders fan. As well as another game called Biomutant, which I know exactly dick all about. Neither one of those did they give a release date for, which is obviously smart considering they just had to delay a game. But something that I love is they also made a statement that THQ Nordic, who's the studio that's developing Metro Exodus and these other two games, they stated that they would not be at E3 this year in favor of watching the World Cup. They said that they would be hanging out in their beer garden, tilting back some beers, watching the World Cup, and a few press conferences from E3, but they themselves would not be there. I love that response. I absolutely love that response. Like, everybody is super hyped about E3, who's showing what, this and that. And I understand that. Like, I'm excited for it too, to see, the different stuff from E3. But I like that these guys are just I mean, obviously it is, they're being very sarcastic. They're joking. Hopefully people are able to read into that. But I like that these guys are like, we just announced what news we have. Metro's getting delayed. These other 2 games that we're working on don't even have release dates. What would they show at E3? Like a little bit more work that they've done on Metro? Why take the weeks or potentially months of planning and all the work that goes into getting to E3, doing the press conference, showing everything? Why go through all that fucking hoopla and basically weeks of honestly wasted work when they could stay home and actually work on the game and get it done that much sooner? Like, personally, I like that response. I think it's cool that they were like, basically, no, we're not going to fucking E3. Like, we need to work on our game. No, like, fuck off. Yeah, so I dug that. But I can understand where, some people would be like, well, that's fucking kind of a dickhead response, I guess, if you don't know how to understand fucking sarcasm. But me personally, I loved it. Some other announcements as far as E3 goes. Reportedly, a representative from Gearbox told some journalists that Borderlands 3 would not be at E3 this year. Now, Borderlands 3 hasn't officially been announced yet. It's been hinted at a lot, but it hasn't officially been announced yet, so I don't know. But either way, he's saying no, there is not going to be a Borderlands 3 at E3, but Gearbox is going to show some other games. It's fine with me. Like, I personally don't really care. Like, I do want to see Borderlands 3, but I would much prefer them to not really keep it in the shadows, but like get it to a point where, there's legit reason to be excited about it. Do what fucking oh shit, now I forget their name. The guys that make Skyrim.
Bethesda.
Yeah, Bethesda. Do what Bethesda usually always does. Announce a fucking game at E3 and then 3 months later release it. Don't do, don't announce a game at E3 and be like, it'll be out 4 years from now. Like, it's just fucking annoying. What the fuck is the point? You're basically getting everybody all hyped up for nothing. Yeah, I'm cool for them not showing Borderlands. Yeah, Cyberpunk is another one. Like, Cyberpunk gets announced and it's like fucking 3 years later that the game's actually going to be done. Now, don't get me wrong. It's cool. Like, I'm super fucking hyped for Cyberpunk, but I wish they would have just fucking waited and not said anything. Because then it's like, I'm sitting here, sitting on my fucking hands, still not playing Cyberpunk, even though I've known about it for 2 fucking years now. Like, we're finally going to get to see more of it at E3 this year, but the game's still not going to be released until everybody's suspecting Q4 of 2019. So Christmas time 2019 is when people are suspecting it. But again, like, the game itself was announced like 2 years ago. So, yeah, if Gearbox isn't ready to show it at E3 yet, cool with me. Wait until fucking next year, We also, speaking of games being announced, what I think is too early is Stalker 2 was announced for 2021 release, which feels weird as fuck to say that, a game is getting released in 2021. Like, it's just weird to say those fucking numbers. Like, I'm used to saying like 1998 and shit. But yeah, 2021, Stalker 2 is supposed to be released on the Unreal 4 engine. A lot of people are super fucking excited for this. Obviously, huge fans of Stalker 1. I know Drum is a massive fucking Stalker 1 fan. He has been fucking harping on me for years now to play Stalker 1. There's place where you can get it completely free now and all modified and shit like that. But yeah, I hate that. I do not like that they announced this fucking game 3 years out. Like, what's the point of that? I can understand the point of it if, you know, the studio was announcing their crowdfunding because they couldn't raise the capital to make the game, so they want to crowdfund it. They're announcing it 3 years out, you know, that they want to release it in 3 years. This is them announcing their, you know, crowdfunding campaign, and we want to release the game in 3 years. I could understand that completely. But that's not the case. Like, they're not, at least from what I've seen so far, they're not crowdfunding the game. So what in the fuck is the point of announcing a game 3 years before you're going to release it? Like, people are going to completely forget about that game until it comes back around and, you know, you're building up the hype again to, you know, to get ready to release the game. So why? Like, why bother announcing it 3 years out? I don't understand that at all. Yeah, the hype train to pre-order. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all if like pre-orders went on sale the day after they made the announcement. But I mean, what do you guys think about that? Like, do you like when games are announced that far out, so you can kind of plan out like, okay, this year I've got this game, this year I've got this game, you know, this year I've got these 3 games, so on. Do you guys like that, or would you prefer they just shut the fuck up and announce it, you know, the year they're going to release it or the year before?
I end up forgetting usually.
Yeah.
But sometimes I do like it being told early, because I'm like, okay, that's cool. Now it's coming out. So now I know that this game's coming out. I always wanted to wait for it. At least they have an affirmative date, or at least an approximate date that they want to release it. But I'm just like halfway. I'm gonna forget, and I'm end up might need another reminder. And the other half is now I know that they're coming out. They're planning on doing a sequel to this.
Right. Yeah, I can understand that. Like, you know, like, oh shit, they are gonna make a sequel. Awesome. Granted, maybe they shouldn't have waited like 10 fucking years, you know, to finally do their sequel. But you know, we'll see. Yeah, me personally, I don't really care for it because, like you said, I end up fucking forgetting. It's and there's the other really bad desync that I was talking about where we almost got fucking killed. What about you, Munson? Like, what do you think about them announcing games so far out?
I mean, it's not a huge deal to me one way or the other. I will admit that, you know, part of selling a game is kind of hyping the game up,
Well, yeah,
and
absolutely.
you don't want people to forget. Um, so I mean, as long as they do start the hype train up, you know, enough in advance, but not obviously too close to the game's release, then I think they'll be fine. It's just they need to maybe manage that a little bit better, manage people's expectations.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Um, and Flash, I don't know why you got timed out there. Subs are supposed to be immune to that. Uh, yeah, Stalker and Metro non-continuation of established titles. Are they really a non-continuation? I mean, I guess when it takes that long for a sequel to come out, yeah, it is kind of non-continuation because they do just leave it laying there for a long time. And well, the Red Dead hype train isn't as big right now. We've still got what, 6 months before Red Dead releases in October, I believe. So we'll see. But I believe I could swear they said in that video I watched for Battlefield 5 that that's getting released in October as well. Maybe
Yeah,
one of you, do you
Battlefield
know?
5 should be. Yeah,
Is
it should be
in
released this
October?
fall.
Wow. So they're going to have Battlefield 5 and Red Dead coming out in the same month. That will be interesting to see. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens there because Red Dead
historically is more so of a single player game. They've, Rockstar has said that this one is going to have online multiplayer and stuff. Okay, fine. But historically, it's a single player game. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what happens there, man. Because who can say that single player games are dead if Red Dead outsells Battlefield on opening day? Like, imagine if that happens. A Battlefield 5, very established multiplayer game, one of the biggest shooters in the world. Imagine if it gets outsold by Red Dead Redemption 2. A game that is predominantly single player, or known for being single player, because the first one was, I think it did have an online aspect or some shit later on or something, but it's a single player game. It's known for its campaign. I would fucking love that, because there are a lot of people that are insanely excited for this Red Dead, I guess, prequel. It's actually a prequel, not a sequel. But yeah, God, I want to see Red Dead outsell Battlefield 5, simply so that, people can be like, yeah, they told you, fucking single player is not dead. But yeah, Rockstar do know how to do their multiplayer. Yes, microtransactions are going to, I'm sure, be in there. But I'm in it for the single player. I don't really give a shit about the multiplayer. I'm playing it purely for the campaign. So, yeah, I'm excited for that. October is going to be a fun month. But I want to move on to something else that I'm like genuinely excited for. And that is some really cool changes to Divinity Original Sin 2. So, any of you guys that have been following the channel for a while know that we did a full co-op playthrough of Divinity Original Sin 2 back when it released. It was me, Drum, Hammond, and Cherry. I believe who went through and played it. Pretty sure. Or maybe Hammer was with us? Fuck, I can't remember now. But yeah, we went through and did a full campaign playthrough and had a great time. Like, I love that game. We played for fucking hours every night. I dug how long the game was. I love the gameplay of it. And so it was announced that the definitive edition for Divinity Original Sin 2 is going to be released in August to coincide with the console release. So the console release is automatically going straight to the definitive edition. It's releasing in August, like I said. So Xbox and PS4 are getting the definitive edition right off the bat. There is no regular edition for console. PC players, it's going to be the same thing as the first Divinity Original Sin. If you own Divinity Original Sin, the first one, you actually have two different copies in your library. You have the regular one and you have the definitive edition. You got the definitive edition for free. And you can fire up and play either one. It's going to be the same gig with this one. PC players that already own the game are going to automatically get the definitive edition for free. You can fire it up and play it. Now, in terms of the changes, this is what I'm excited about. So the definitive edition is going to come with thousands of changes to the game. A total of 45 pages of notes as far as what all is being changed. Some of those include some basic quality of life improvements, including a full party inventory, so you don't have to pass things back and forth like we were having to do. You can just, if it's something that everybody can use, you can throw it in the party inventory, and anybody in the party can grab shit out of there or put stuff in there, which isn't a huge deal. I mean, it's not incredibly difficult to fucking pass things back and forth, but it's a nice quality of life improvement. So different things like that, for example, as well as a complete rewrite of the whole third act, which is the final act of the game. They're rewriting the entire third act with new characters, new script, new story situations and so on. So the entire final act of the game is going to play completely differently than what you played in the first playthrough. That I'm super excited for, because the third act did kind of, in my opinion, fall on its face. It wasn't as strong as the rest of the game. So that's a huge reason right there to play through the game again. It's going to be a whole different, I don't know if it's necessarily a whole different ending. Maybe it's the same ending, but you just get there differently. I'm not sure. But I'm definitely going to find out. As well, there is free DLC coming with new content. How much content is in this DLC, I have no idea. I don't know if it's, 1 or 2 story missions, or if it's like fucking Witcher style DLC where it's, half of another game. What, we don't know yet. But you're getting free DLC. So, I mean, it makes me like this game that much more. It's fun as fuck to play. You get to play with your friends, full campaign co-op, and now you're getting this definitive, if you already own it, you're getting this definitive edition absolutely free with all these changes, rewrite to the full third act, free DLC. Like, it can't really get any better in my opinion. And I'll definitely be playing through it. I'm going to try to fucking twist Drum's arm into playing through it again. He generally doesn't like playing through games multiple times, but since now it's technically going to be different for the entire third act, maybe I'll be able to talk him into it, hopefully, and I'll definitely be fucking streaming it. But did you guys play Divinity at all, or is it even something that you guys are fucking interested in?
I'm not interested in it though, but whenever they're giving out, I wouldn't call it perks, but new releases, changes like that, it's almost like you're playing through the game again. Not again, I should say, but something new.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're playing a third version or whatever, second version or whatever. Even though it's the same thing, but there's a different outcome maybe, or different things you get to use this time.
Right.
So those are good things to use to basically like I would say support people who've been with the game for that long. Those are good things that they did right there.
Yeah, and Drum, we were talking about Divinity Original Sin 2. And the other thing that's really cool about Divinity is it's moddable. Like, there's full-on campaign stories that you can download that people have created via the
even more
dungeon. I think it's Dungeon Master Mode or something like that. I forget what it's called, but basically people create missions for you to go do, and there's full-on campaigns. There's all kinds of other really cool mods, like quality of life mods and shit like that you can download for it that are really nice. Some of them are shit, some of them are fucking amazing. But yeah, altogether, like, this game is just getting better and better. Munson, did you ever play it, or was it even something you were interested in?
No, I mean, I think you maybe told me about it once, and that's about it. Really, I haven't really played it or looked too much more else into it. I might though.
Yeah, like I said, I'm much more excited for it with these changes. Like, I'm more than willing to play through it again. I enjoyed it that much. I personally don't have a problem with playing through games multiple times because they're different for me each time quite often. But this, with them changing the whole final act of the game and adding more content, and who knows what other changes that we haven't even seen yet. When they say there's 45 fucking pages of changelog or of notes of what they're changing, these thousands of changes, and we've only seen a couple pages. Like, I'll be re-downloading it and checking all this shit out. So yeah, that's some pretty exciting news for me.
It's almost just like with Siege, they release new operators and new maps. That's why I was saying that that it's a good thing that they're doing that as well, because it just really keeps people playing the game.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and Siege is a great example. I mean, they've been fucking taking care of people that still play that game, and I like seeing that. Even though me personally, I don't play Siege, I like what they're doing. So to move on to the next thing I had here is, Jesus Christ, this is fucking massive. anybody that didn't see this, I mean, it's huge news right now. Epic, the guys who created Fortnite, Epic Games, have put up $100 million for prize pools for Fortnite tournaments over the next year. $100 million total for different prize pools. This isn't for one individual tournament. This is for, multiple different tournaments. How many they're going to have, no idea. How, what the skill levels are going to be, if there's going to be stuff for amateurs or it's only for professionals, no fucking clue. But they put up $100 million.
Sorry, have they done tournaments before? Just like they're starting it up.
They have, but nothing on this scale.
That scale,
obviously.
Yeah, okay.
Well, nobody's done anything on this scale. In fact, last year, the top 10 esport games total put up, I think it was 95 or 97 million total for prize pools. So they were, 5 to 3 million off from what Fortnite just put up. And that was 10 games. The top 10 esport games that include, League of Legends, StarCraft 2, shit like the biggest esport games in the world put up, we'll say 97 million. And Epic Games just put up 100 million for just their game. So this is massive. Like, my question on this, because it's very obvious, CSGO was another one, but it's very obvious that Fortnite is a fucking juggernaut. It was the biggest game on Twitch last month, looking at the viewing metrics and so on. Fortnite had 127.9 million hours viewed on Twitch in April. 127.9 million hours in a month. The next closest game was League of Legends at 73.7 million. So Fortnite almost doubled League of Legends, which has been the #1 game on Twitch for years now. And they almost doubled it last month. So it's pretty fucking obvious that Fortnite is huge. So I have 2 questions on this. One, what's your guys' over-under on how long before we see a fucking Fortnite tournament on legit pay-per-view? I mean, like, legit motherfuckers sitting at home ordering a Fortnite tournament on pay-per-view.
TV?
Yeah. How long? How many years do you think?
Within a year. No, I should say I'm gonna expand it more. About 2 years, because
2 years?
with it, you could play on the phone as well. I'm pretty sure it will get popular.
What do you think,
I'm
Munson?
optimistic. I'm optimistic for something like that. Of course, I'm
Mhm.
all for mainstreaming gaming, as long as it, like I said in the past, it doesn't fuck with the game itself.
All right.
But for Fortnite, I'm not super personally interested in it. But I don't know. Like, it was brought up by the internet. It was brought up by Twitch
Yeah.
to popularity. Um, so part of me thinks, yeah, sure, they can make some deal with maybe ESPN or some other thing.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't necessarily know if they would go the pay-per-view route, because I don't know. I mean,
what about this? And I have to think this conversation has happened or is happening. What would stop Twitch from doing their own pay-per-view
right.
for a tournament that size?
That
if
would
they
make
were to do
10 times more sense.
You look at like the league finals where, they're in stadiums with 50,000 fucking people there. It's bigger than a boxing match. Heavyweight boxing hasn't really been popular since fucking Tyson and Holyfield, but boxing is still shown on pay-per-view, right?
Right.
What is stopping Twitch from saying, we're going to sell tickets to this Fortnite, World Finals that's taking place in Vegas at the MGM. We're going to sell tickets to it to watch it on Twitch for $10 a person or whatever. And that's the only way you can watch the World Finals. You can watch the qualifying tournaments on Twitch for free. we're going to broadcast those. But to watch the World Finals at the MGM, you pay us $10 and you get to watch the feed.
They'd make millions of dollars.
Oh my God, they would be fucking bathing in money. Because people would pay it. Absolutely, people would pay it.
And with smart TVs and everything else, I mean, you don't need.
Yeah, you don't need pay-per-view. You can watch it on your TV.
Right. So that's the more intelligent route.
Yeah.
I think.
Actually, yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I think we'll see that happen before an actual pay-per-view event of Fortnite on TV. We'll see it actually happen on Twitch.
Because cable's dying. Let's face it. It's dying.
Oh yeah.
I think most people want it to be dead. And smart stuff is just that's the new thing. So Netflix, smart TVs, Twitch on your smart TV. That's
I would agree with that. Drum just said it would be a bad idea that they make more money from subs and donos and like ad revenue and stuff. I would agree, but I don't think that would change. I think even if they charged, people would still sub and donate during the qualifying rounds. Like if they streamed the qualifying rounds for free and said anybody that subscribes gets such and such discount on the ticket on their price for the finals to view the finals. Oh my God. Like if they were to say you get half off if you subscribe now to the fucking Fortnite Twitch page or whatever.
Yep.
And next month when the finals are shown, you get 50% off. Fuck. That would be genius. They would make stupid amounts of money.
Yeah, definitely will.
Or even bundle it with like a Prime account offer or something. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, because if you get
crazy.
Yeah, you tell people, hey, you can sub for free with your Twitch Prime and, get your discount. And it's free for you because you have Twitch Prime. Fuck. They would make so much money.
So much value. Yeah,
I wonder why they haven't even thought about this though.
Like I said, I think they are. I mean, you
probably are, I guess, yeah.
If I can fucking think of it, those motherfuckers can think of it.
They're just waiting so they can take the most amount of market share the fastest. And for that,
they've already done that.
Right. But from what we just said, from pay-per-view type stuff, they gotta steal that market share very quickly.
That's gonna be a battle for them too as well.
I don't think it'll be that big of a battle. It's already a battle that's been won. There's more. Granted, this is syndicated TV. Okay, so like, Friends reruns and Seinfeld and shit like that. But there is more hours viewed on Twitch than what there is nationally syndicated TV. And that was as of last year. More people watched people playing video games on Twitch than they did nationally syndicated networks. So, shit like NBC, ABC, CBS, shit like that. More people were watching Twitch than those networks. Obviously, they're not going to compete with, something like Game of Thrones or, shit like that. But in comparison to like pay-per-view events, like say UFC events, which are kind of the biggest pay-per-view events in the world, at least for now, still, they already fucking blow them out of the water as far as viewership. So let alone, when it's a world final and there's say $10 million on the line or $20 million or whatever. Yeah, they'll easily go way above and beyond the highest pay-per-views that are going on at the time. So yeah, that's big news for esports. I personally don't really give a shit about Fortnite. It's not a game I'm interested in, but it is cool to see, games continue to gain traction like this. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. Like Munson said, hopefully it doesn't affect the game itself, but we'll see. But the last thing I wanted to talk about tonight was, I guess the term for it is nostalgia gaming, or I'm not really sure there, but recently I had a conversation with my brother over Mother's Day. We were at the park with all the families and stuff, and he was talking about this. How was it called? I think it was a Raspberry that he got. It's
Raspberry
basically,
Pi. Yep.
yeah, it's basically a miniature PC. But he's using it to play all the old school games that we used to play. He's got multiple systems basically emulated on it, Sega's and NES, SNES, stuff like that. So, we got talking about that, and we were talking about how, like, now to go buy, like, an SNES, you're talking $100+ just for the system. And then, you buying the games for $10 a piece or so, depending upon the game, obviously. And it can get expensive very quick. Now, obviously, not as expensive when the system was brand new. You're not paying hundreds of dollars secondhand for a fucking NES or something like that, like it was back in the day when it was first released. But it can get fairly expensive when you're considering that, these are systems that are fucking 30 years old. So we got talking about that, and I also have fucking Sega emulator and SNES emulator, and I have played a lot of the the old games that I really loved, and stuff like oh shit, was it Ghouls and Goblins, like Alter Beast, Double Dragon, like a lot of the old school games like that, Rage and stuff, and I came to the realization, like, while we were having this conversation, I was like, the games we used to play, they had a lot of replayability, not because the games were good, it was because they were so fucking difficult. Like, you kept playing them over and over and over to try and beat the game because it was so goddamn hard. Like, that was their way to keep people playing because they couldn't make the games bigger. They didn't have room on the cartridge to make the game bigger. They had to just make it more difficult so that you would keep playing the game and want to, play the next one that they did because you're like, fuck, can I beat the next one? But my question, I guess, is, does that make a game better just because it has replayability? We were talking earlier about the dollars per hour metric and so on. And you still somewhat see this in games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne and stuff like that, where they're incredibly difficult, and you get a fuck ton of gameplay out of them because they are so difficult. And not to say those games are bad. I do like Dark Souls 3. I don't like the unwanted PvP. That shit's annoying. But do you guys agree with that idea that difficult games, some people will say that very difficult games like that are better because you have more gameplay, because it takes you longer to complete them? Would you guys agree with that kind of outlook?
For me, yes. I mean, yes and no. I think everybody has their level of dedication that they want to put into a title. Um, and for some of them, it depends on what they're looking for. So, it, like something like Dark Souls, yeah, sure, it's a challenge. It's a fight the entire way there. It's testing your patience every step of the way.
Yeah.
And some people really want that. It's the same reason why our milsim exists. It's because some people want the extra challenge and they want to work harder to get their entertainment. Um, because it brings more value to them that way, winning it anyway. Um, so yeah, I think that that slice of the pie can be for some people. Me personally, I mean, I'm cool with it on some games. Other games, I just want to chill out and hang out and have fun.
Right.
Uh, so I'm all for it.
Well, I guess even more so, like, what do you guys think? Granted, you're a little bit younger than I am, but what do you guys think about nostalgia gaming? Like, do you guys ever feel the want to go back and play, like PS1 games or original Xbox games, like stuff that you guys grew up with? Do you ever feel that want to, like, go back and play those and
Yeah.
Enjoy those games?
A little bit, because there's a lot of games I miss playing because it really brings back memories. Oh, I remember this, and it
Yeah.
gives you like a lot of joy. especially games that my brother and I, and since we're twin brothers, we used to play a lot of games together when we were little. Now we don't play games together. He doesn't like playing games with me, but it just really brings back a lot of memories and you like a lot of laughs. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm laughing right now because there's a lot of things that I would not stop laughing about, especially my brother and I do the same things we were doing before. So I kind of get the stance of it though.
What is the draw to go back and play those old games? Is the draw, obviously it's not right now because you don't, well, at least I don't know, but I don't think you guys have, one of those old consoles that you play. But is that draw strong enough for you to want to go out and drop, $100 on an SNES and play, Donkey Kong?
No. See, the issue is that gaming has improved so much over the years that yeah, it's fun to take a dip back through memory lane and experience those titles again. But to be honest, at this point, we've already experienced them.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling on it. And like the emulators I have and stuff, like they were free. I didn't have to fucking spend any money or anything like that. But I've thought about it a couple of times, like going back and getting an original NES and playing some of the old school Marios because I love those, or even playing like Duck Hunt. Not necessarily because
I remember that.
Duck Hunt is that fun or anything. It's just there's a ton of nostalgia for me there because it's one of the very few video games that I can remember my dad playing, aside from like Atari's like Warlords and shit like that, which he still basically plays like an updated version of Atari's Warlords. If any of you guys are old enough to remember Warlords, you remember it's just a ball with a paddle at the bottom of the screen, and you bounce the paddle the ball off the paddle up into blocks, and you have to destroy the blocks without the ball going past your paddle. Like I said, any of you guys that are old enough to remember it, it's a fucking boring ass game. But still to this day, my dad will sit there for hours on end
I don't get
playing.
why you like those games though.
He'll sit there playing pinball mixed with Angry Birds.
Yep,
pretty much. But my dad will sit there and play an updated version of that on his computer right now for hours on end. I can't remember the fucking name of the goddamn game, but there's like 18 different versions of it, and he has every one and has completed every fucking map on every one of them. But yeah, like that kind of shit and Duck Hunt are really the only video games I can ever remember my dad playing and like genuinely enjoying. Like I legit remember my dad, like it was in the winter. It wasn't Christmas because like we didn't get an NES for Christmas. But we had one, and I remember my dad sitting there in the living room in the fucking like leather like lazy boy style chair with his leg like cocked up over one of the armrests, just like totally lounged out, which is already weird enough to see my dad like that because he's generally pretty like straight up, like sitting straight up in his seat and not necessarily proper, but I mean he's spent years in the military, had a military father, like that's just kind of his demeanor. So it was already weird seeing my dad sitting like that, but he's in his sweatpants and his fucking like knee-high tube socks and a fucking sleeveless shirt, sitting there playing Duck Hunt, laughing his ass off, trying to shoot the fucking dog as everybody does, because the fucking thing is laughing at him. And that's like such a great memory for me. Just thinking about that and remembering my dad playing a video game and genuinely enjoying it. So, I've had that thought of, man, I wouldn't mind having a original NES to get like Duck Hunt and play and, maybe try and convince my dad to come over and sit down and try and shoot some ducks, But then the more I think about it, it's like, do I really want to drop $150 on an NES system and another $50 or so on cartridges to play for 20-30 minutes each game and go, oh yeah, I remember this game, yep, I had a lot of fun with it. But in reality, like when you do play those games, like I said, I have an emulator on my system, and like when I do go back and play Altered Beast or Sonic 2 or shit like that. It's like, these games are not good.
Right.
Like, you look at them with rose-colored glasses because at the time when you remember playing them, it's like, oh my god, this is fucking amazing. But now, when you compare it to modern games, obviously they're dog shit. So you end up playing it for 20, 30 minutes and then get frustrated as a motherfucker and shut the thing off. So that's why I can't do it. I can't justify going out and dropping money on an old system to play a game for, like I said, like 20, 30 minutes and get frustrated and then shut it off. So I can understand the appeal of nostalgia gaming like that. But given how much I game now and how I kind of always have to be on top of the new games that are coming out and, at least check some of them out, the ones that, I think you guys will like watching and so on. I'm constantly exposed to those newer games as to where, like, my brother, he doesn't play quite as many new games. Like, I think really the newest game he plays is like World of Tanks, which is is new, but it's still a little bit older. He doesn't really get as deep into gaming as I do, so I think it's a little bit easier for him to play some of the older games than it is for me. As where, like I said, I go back and play them, and it's like, yeah, I remember the good times I had in this, but God, this game fucking sucks. Yeah, that's just kind of my feeling on it. And we'll see if there's, because there is still stuff like Mass Effect, where I'll go back and play those games where they're kind of older. I wouldn't consider them nostalgia in any way. They're not that old. But I will go back and play those because they are such great games, and the gameplay is of a high enough quality that I enjoy going back to play those. The only, I guess, kind of difference there is, or I guess kind of caveat that there is when it comes to that kind of stuff, for me is, yeah, there you go. Riley just said it. CNC, Command and Conquer. Like, I'll still to this day go back and play covert operations of CNC or Red Alert or stuff like that, like Command and Conquer. But I think a lot of that is that Command and Conquer was never a groundbreaking game in terms of visuals or anything like that. Like, each game was pretty much the same. Yeah, they updated the visuals a little bit, but the gameplay itself never really changed. It didn't really get worse, but it also didn't improve that much. So it's pretty much the same game with a slightly nicer skin each time. So that's one that I'll always go back and play. And I guess another one I would go back and play would be arcade games. Stuff like Time Crisis, House of the Dead, shit like that. I would go back and play, not on a system. Like, if I were to go to an arcade, I would still play those games and have just as much fun because the games haven't changed at all. And those weren't really, I guess, something that you played for the gameplay itself, or the visuals, really. It was just fun to actually hold the gun and shoot it at the screen. Kind of like Duck Hunt, I guess. I guess some of the old Sega light gun games would still be fun. I remember having one of the old school light rifles. I mean, full on fucking full size like rifle and shit for the Sega. That was pretty fun back in the day. Yeah, I think arcades would still be something I would play. Like I said, specifically those style, like the shooters. I don't think stuff like Daytona USA would still be fun, or things like Afterburner. Like, I don't think that would still be fun unless you're playing in the big Afterburner rig that actually moves around and shit. Like what they had in the movie Terminator 2, where he's in that rig that's moving around and shit. We actually used to have that at the arcade that we went to. I love that shit. I remember watching Terminator 2 and being like, oh my god, I've played that exact game. I don't even know if, I mean, I think a lot of arcades would be considered nostalgic gaming at this point, because I don't know how modern arcade boxes can really get now. I guess you could make them incredibly modern because you could just put a straight up gaming PC in there. But what about for you guys? Like, did the two of you ever really go to arcades when you were younger? Like, were arcades already kind of on their way out by the time you guys were kind of getting to the age to be able to go to arcades?
Well,
Um,
you go
I
ahead.
okay. Have you ever heard of Boomers? I don't know if you have.
No.
Oh, never been out. Okay, so like, Boomers is something very popular down south, Florida. It's actually like literally an arcade. Not gonna say theme park, but you have go karts on the outside to
Oh
play
yeah,
with
yeah.
water,
There's
but the inside all games. Then in the upstairs levels, laser tag stuff like that.
yeah,
And we used to always want to go to Boomers. It's still fun to go to Boomers. It's something just fun to hang out, play at, instead of having to go to an actual theme park like Disney World or
right.
Studio, whatever else in Orlando. So like Boomers been around since I was little, and it's something that's been part of like summer camps. You go to Boomers maybe 2 times a month.
Yeah, there's a couple of places like that here. Yeah, Pistol Pete's we had a Pistol Pete's here. I think ours was 4 stories or 5. I think it was 4. Pistol Pete's was 4, and then Arcadia was 5. Like in the Detroit area, there was multiple like big arcades like that. Yeah, Dave and Buster's is kind of an arcade, but
That's one as well. Yeah,
they're kind of
for older
meh.
people.
But yeah, like Pistol Pete's, like that was huge back in the day. I remember them having they had 32 of the NASCAR games lined up in this room along the outer walls, and you could have full on NASCAR races in this. You'd have 32 people, like they'd schedule races, and you'd have 32 people all sit down in these arcade games that were all land together, and you'd have a full on 32 car grid for a NASCAR race. It was amazing. And like they had like full motion rigs for driving games, just all kinds of crazy shit. Like that was where you first got introduced to VR. Like, and this was back in mid 90s where, they had virtual reality games. Granted, they look like dog shit, but it was amazing at the time. We had never seen VR before, so yeah, shit like that was really cool. I mean, Munson, did you ever go to the arcades as a kid?
We didn't really have an arcade around me in, middle of nowhere, Minnesota. So, what we did have is we had a pizza place that had like 2 or 3
Oh
bars.
yeah, yeah.
That was it.
Like Little Caesars is really famous for that, for like having
R-
arcades in their
Right.
restaurants.
So we had Battletoads and some racing stuff and a
Mhm.
couple other things, and like it was fun. But for the most part, for me, I mean, I just grew up mainly playing games at home on the NES and SNES, and that was it.
Right.
What was the name of that pizza place?
Little
I,
Caesars. Oh, the one
Oh, I
that.
thought it was CC's Pizza.
Oh.
for mine, I don't know. I don't remember.
okay.
It was some local thing.
Oh, yeah. That's fairly common for pizza places to have. Especially when it's like a full-on sit-down restaurant. A lot of them will have arcades and shit in them. Another good place for them back in the day was always laundromats. Laundromats always had arcades in them to entertain the fucking kids while laundry was going. But yeah, back in, I would say, the mid to late 90s and even the early 2000s, like arcades were everywhere, man. There was, I mean, just here in Flint, there was 3 different arcades in town. Like some, one was better than the others and stuff, but there was 3 different fucking arcades that you could go to. And then, like I said, you had the stuff down around the Detroit Pontiac area that you could go to that, you had like Pistol Pete's that was like 4 stories of arcade and, hotel rooms and shit like that. Like arcades were massive back in the day. And I miss that aspect of it. Not just the games themselves, but just walking into an arcade and like when you'd walk into like Pistol Pete's and you go to the front desk there and you just look up and there's all these lights and sounds and music and shit, and you look up and there's 3 floors of fucking cabinets above you. Like, holy shit. I could be here all day and not play every single one of these games. This is amazing. I miss that feeling, even more so than the games. I miss that feeling of walking into an arcade and hearing all the sounds and all the lights flashing and shit like that. Like, that was always the, not necessarily the best part about going to the arcade, but like, that is one of my fondest memories of, especially with my brother Steve. Like, hey, you want to go to the fucking arcade today? Yeah, I got $5. All right, let's go. And you'd be at the arcade all day long with $5. Like that. Yeah, that I miss a lot and wish I could still do. Like, the arcades here in town are all closed. There is no arcades here anymore. In fact, Dave and Buster's is the closest arcade to me, and that's like an hour and a half drive from where I am. Is the closest arcade now. That kind of sucks. But yeah, long story short, nostalgia gaming, I think it's a little overrated. But I can understand why people do it. I personally can't understand, though, why people want to drop like $100 plus on an old system like a NES or SNES or Sega or shit like that. But, you know, whatever, to each their own. So that's gonna wrap it up for today. In terms of what we got going on tonight, I don't know if we're doing a World War II mission or not. I personally don't really care. I want to play some more this State of Decay 2. So I don't know what's going on with the World War II, but I know we're gonna be doing some more State of Decay. I already talked to Heckman. He's ready to go. So you'll be seeing some more State of Decay tonight. I can't guarantee when. And then, you know, we'll probably be streaming State of Decay for the next few days. And then this weekend we have OSUT, obviously, and then Task Force Charlie, where I'll be Task Force Commanding, and then Task Force Bravo, where I will be Zeusing. And like we were saying earlier, hopefully this is going to be the last cycle of Operation Thunderstorm, and then we'll go into some FTXs. But again, nothing's guaranteed. So if shit goes really wrong, you know, could be seeing another cycle of operations. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for us tonight. Smith, Munson, you guys got any last minute things to bring up?
I got nothing.
Nothing for me.
All right, excellent. And Riley, you've never been to an arcade because you're 12, and arcades have all been destroyed in your timeline. So sorry for that. But yeah, that's it for tonight. We'll be back at it, like I said, in a little bit with some State of Decay 2 and killing some more zombies. And hopefully you guys will be able to join me for that. And until then, later.